Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. And in this video, I'm going to do a review of what I would call rookie Zoom mistakes. So I don't know if you've ever been in this situation where you've just joined a Zoom meeting and you're bored out of your mind and it's hard to pay attention and you're unfocused. And it was kind of for a topic you had some interest in, but because the speaker just was not, they didn't have the it, and you can't describe what it is. You just kind of lost interest in the meeting. And this happens to me all the time. So, just to kind of give you a little bit of background about myself, I've been doing Zoom meetings since 2019. Made a few mistakes along the way, and I've done this with a variety of people before I even started this YouTube channel. So, one of the feedback I've heard a lot is even though I don't use PowerPoint, I don't ever really turn on my cam. And I just use WordPad like I'm showing you right now. I've always heard like, "Oh my goodness, this is excellent," right? Or "Wow, like this is the best thing since sliced bread." Or I've heard many comments like that. And when at first, because I was just like in my own bubble, just because I'm only focused on doing my own Zoom presentations. I had no idea what other people were doing, right? And then over the years, because I've now had a little bit more free time, I'm not focused on just developing my own craft. I look at other people's Zoom meetings, and I don't know if you ever watch I Love Lucy, where Lucy has that face where he's like, ooh, ew, right? I don't know if you ever seen that. I'm not really good at doing a I Love Lucy impression, but I see other people's Zoom meetings like, dude, these are like totally rookie mistakes that you shouldn't be making, and there should be some preparation before you ever hit the join meeting button that you should do in order to engage your audience, right? So I'm just going to talk about things that like I see as kind of like a red flag, far away red flag. Like, dude, you shouldn't do this when you're conducting a Zoom meeting, because I'll be honest, 90% of Zoom meetings that I join, I'm kind of a little bored and I'm tuned out, right? And that's because a lot of times it's just like people just have meetings for the sake of meetings, just kind of like in corporate America, with little to no focus. And what you want to be is if you want to engage your audience, you almost have to kind of be like a Hollywood movie, like a good Hollywood movie, not the bad Hollywood movies nowadays where it's just a CGI fest with no story, but you want at least to be a decent Hollywood movie, right? So this is kind of like tip number one, and I could probably come up with 20 tips, but I think I only have four. But tip number one is, let's say you want to present on a topic. Let's say you're a student, or maybe you're just like a student teacher, right? Like you have to deal with 20 kids. And again, I would never teach kids just because I know they have a short attention span. But I'm just saying, like, if you're an amateur at what you do, if you're a beginner, don't just go on the Zoom call to talk about whatever it is that you're talking about, right? What you want to do is just kind of have a script. Well, not just kind of actually create a script if you're a beginner. Now, if you're doing the same thing 1,000 times, you probably had a script in your drawer a long time ago and you don't need it anymore. But what I'm saying is, if you're a beginner, you're talking about velocity banking or real estate investing or whatever it is, create a script and then practice your pitch before going online. I even see this in offline meetings I attend. I go to an offline meeting, right? They're presenting a topic and it's just all over the place, right? So, what you want to do is you want to create a script and then refine that script and practice your pitch over and over again. I never really record myself to listen to myself because I figure if I practice over and over again, I'll naturally get better, right? But the point is that you create a script and practice it. Whatever the topic is. Is it about biology? Is it about finance? It doesn't matter. Create a script and practice your pitch. Practice it even 1,000 times before you even go online. Although, lots of time will have passed by then. But what I'm saying is that in my point of view, most people just kind of go online and kind of semi talk about a topic, but with no real focus. So you want to create a script, right? And here's the thing that you really want to remember. You might say like, oh, I have imposter syndrome, right? Like I don't really feel like I'm an expert on a topic. And you know what? There is a whole professional class of people out there who make millions and millions of dollars to pretend to be people that they're not. They're called actors, right? And you know what actors have? They have scripts. Okay? So they have scripts. So if you think you have imposter syndrome, great. So do so many actors. And the cure for that, well, actually, actors don't have imposter syndrome. They've cured the imposter syndrome by practicing and reading a script, right? Like Tom Cruise is not, I don't know if he's an actual, well, he's definitely not in the military, right? But when you watch Top Gun, you believe he's in the military. I was going to say he's not a pilot, but I don't know if he's not a pilot or not. But if when I watched Top Gun, especially that Top Gun Maverick movie, I was like, this guy's a pro. Like this guy is an actual military fighter, and he makes me believe that he's a military fighter, right? Again, actors practice they're and reading scripts, and then they do it to a point to make you believe that there's something that they're not. And so if you're trying to be an expert at something, real estate agent, doesn't even matter, practice a script and practice it 10,000, 20,000 times, right? All right, I'll move on to the next tip. Tip number 2: never ask a question or refer to terminology that you don't know the answer to. And I see this all the time. For some reason, people are asking questions to the audience that they don't really know the answer to. That blows my mind. But another thing, and this is just more out of laziness, they copy and paste something into maybe their PowerPoint. And somebody in the audience will say, "Hey, what does that mean?" And the speaker is going to kind of flub because they don't know the answer too. Like you think that people wouldn't do that, but again, it's a sign. A lot of these mistakes are just like how to prepare for the meeting before you actually get to the meeting, right? So one of the things that people do is they just copy and paste something, or maybe they heard some terminology and they don't, they want to sound impressive, and so they put it on their PowerPoint. And then when the audience asks, like, "Hey, what does that mean?" They're like, well, and then they have to kind of hit the panic button, or, maybe they have someone else on the call who's more experienced, and they have to kind of like, uh, you say, "Hey, what, can you help me out with that?" You ever been that in that situation? But again, don't ever ask a question or refer to terminology that you don't know the answer to. Number 3, don't insult the audience, right? And I think a lot of times what happens is that I don't think speakers are doing this on purpose, but what it is they're trying to position themselves as an expert. And one of the things that speakers should never do is act like the reason why they're on audience is because they know more than the audience, right? So sometimes they feel like in order to like put themselves in that position, they have to tell the audience like, well, you wouldn't know this because of X, Y, and Z. And there will be some instances where your audience is smarter than you, right? But too many people, I don't know if it's out of insecurity or bad habits, think that they always have to be in a smarter position than their audience in order for them to be paid. And that's simply not true. Now, I know this from experience because I know people have paid me who have more experience in what I'm trying to present. And I just kind of go with it. Like, hey, I know you know more than this. Hey, I know you have 20 years of experience this, and we're just going to go over this topic, right? But what I would never say is, oh, you definitely wouldn't know velocity banking because I'm smarter than you, or anything like that. But I kind of always see or hear that. And to me, that's always like a little bit of cringe. And, if they just adjust the way that they speak to the audience, then you can get the audience on your side. And so it's kind of like what you want to do is you want to find a way to make them right while making yourself an expert. And here's a thought that just came up in my mind. I heard this a long time ago, and I don't remember what the source of it was, but they say like the best way to convert someone to your religion is to find something that you have in common with them rather than telling them that their previous religion or whatever is wrong, right? So let's say you're trying to convert someone to Christianity, and then that person's religion has one God, right? Like monotheistic God. You say, well, we have this in common. So it's obvious you should join us, right? Rather than telling them, hey, your religion is wrong, so therefore you must join ours, right? I heard that from somewhere, but I don't remember where. But I thought that was a really, really great point when it comes to converting your audience. Like you want to make them right while you yourself are positioning yourself an expert, right? So let's say there's someone out there who has 20 plus experience of being, a financialist. Like, hey, you have all this experience. I'm just kind of share some things that I've learned for the first time, and you let me know if you have some insights or if there's anything new you learned or you want to add to what I've said, right? But I'm never going to tell them that just because I'm on the speaker stage that I have to know more than them, right? All right. So this is just kind of the last tip for this video, and maybe I'll come up with a new set of tips in another video. Um, don't ever ask like open-ended questions or try to limit those, right? So what I've noticed is that sometimes speakers say like, what do you want to learn today?" Right? And in a world where like amount of information and videos and media is like exponentially increasing every single day, most people, I get the number one problem that people have in modern society is they're overwhelmed and they cannot make a choice, right? I don't know if you ever heard of the book The Paradox of Choice. If you've never heard of it, go ahead and look it up. But basically, and this was written in 2004, I think. But basically, the speaker is saying that like one of the reasons why modern people are so unhappy is they have way too many choices, right? And so what you want to do in general is, again, this isn't a hard coded fast rule, but in general, you want to ask A or B questions, right? So, do you like chocolate or do you like grapes? Two things that are kind of different, and they're not similar to each other, because it's much easier to make a decision if I'm giving chocolate versus grapes, which is kind of like two weird choices, versus oranges and tangerines. Maybe if I'm really dialed in, I'll know which one I want. But if I'm given choice between orange and tangerines, I'll have to think about it because they're kind of the same to me, right? Versus chocolate versus grapes. If I want a more natural flavor, obviously I want the grapes. If I want that to satisfy my sweet tooth, I'm going to take the chocolate, right? But don't ask like, what do you want? You get anything that you want. That's the worst question you can ask, right? And again, open-ended questions and choices harm your audience by leading them into indecisiveness. You want them to make things a very A or B easy for them, right? Do you want do you want sushi or do you want, I don't know, lettuce? I don't know if that's a bad choice. But again, they're two remarkably different answers, right? Rather than magenta and what's the fuchsia or purple, like you don't want to go there. Okay? All right, so this is Korean Atlanta Mentorship. Hopefully, you're not making some of these rookie Zoom mistakes. And to be honest, like when I first started doing Zoom consulting, I made some mistakes along the way. People insulted me. It's like, this sucks. And I was like, you know what? You're right. And, like one of the things that maybe you should ask yourself if you're not getting the results that you want is, would people pay you, or would you pay someone to do the job that you're doing? And if the answer is no, you got to improve, right? I'm getting paid to do YouTube, right? By YouTube because so many people are watching the content. So I know that people are kind of they're connecting with what I'm saying. But if you ain't getting the subs or ain't getting the views or the watch hours, you got to practice your pitch. And if people are joining in your Zoom calls and they go to one meeting and they're not constantly coming back, because that's where the money is, the recurring revenue, that's what they call it, annual recurring revenue, ARR. Uh, Something's wrong and you got to fix it. Now, I'm not saying you're going to be a success overnight, because obviously I'm not a success overnight, and a lot of the time success only came when I least wanted it. And if you don't know what I mean by that, like there were times in my life where I was making $20,000 a year, and I was like, oh, I really wish I could make six figures. And then when six figures came, I was like, I don't really care about this anymore. I don't know if that ever happened to you, but it happens to me, and I know it's probably going to happen to me in YouTube, where like, oh, I so want a million subscriber YouTube channel, and then once I probably get that, I'll be like, I'm so bored with this. But again, it's kind of having the maturity, understanding that, yeah, like I should still make videos even though like I don't really um, success is boredom. I don't know if you ever heard me say that, but if you're able to keep producing and working and not feel, get excited over like, oh, you got 1 million subs, then I think that's really the road to success. Anyways, enough of me rambling. Don't make these rookie Zoom mistakes. Be engaging. If I join your meeting, I'm not going to put too much pressure on you, but I don't want to be like awfully bored and think about, oh, you could have just done this. And again, everybody must make mistakes, right? I learned from my mistakes. And then eventually I got to a point in like 2019, 2020, 21 where people were saying like, oh my goodness, like this is so excellent. And I don't even have a PowerPoint, right? But it's based on the way that you communicate to your clients or the other person on the quote on the phone, right? Okay, well, that's it for today, and I'll see if I can come up with another list. Hope you enjoyed this list. Also, if you're interested in joining our group, go ahead and click the Google form link below. Learn about financial literacy, real estate education, and we'll speak next time. Happy 2024 in a few days.